Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lawfully Speaking with Nopare. Today, I want to share a few red flags in contracting. I'm going to give you 4 red flags that you should look out for when you are contracting with any client. 1 is scope of work. I have read way too many contracts that the scope of work is just vague. When you are writing your scope of work, you want to make sure that your deliverables are definitive and your deadlines are definitive. So what does that look like? Make sure that your services or products are listed as specifically as possible. Make sure that your client understands when you start a work or you start a service and when you end that service. When it comes to contracting, think about it this way. You want to articulate the relationship that you have with your client in such a way that it makes perfect sense if anybody was to pick it up and read it. The next one is ownership of content and usage rights. This typically happens between photographers and videographers and clients. Who really owns the rights to those pictures? Now, copyright says that the photographer or the originator of that work owns the right. But what if it's a work for hire? So you want to make sure that that is specified accurately in your contract. This isn't just for the business owner, but it's also for you, the client. Make sure that you understand that once you pay for something, it now belongs to you. That is if that is an agreement between you and the business owner. The next thing that I want to talk about is payment. I know money is such a sensitive topic, but when it comes to business, you want to be firm and you want to be very specific as to how you want to be paid. When you say 50% on a contract, make sure the complete amount or the total amount of the service or the product is specified on that contract so that any court or judge is able to calculate what 50% is and when that 50% is due. The last thing I'd like to discuss is boilerplate. Now, I totally get it. No one wants to read all of the excess stuff in a contract, but believe it or not, that is the most important part. The meat of the contract, which is the 2 parties involved, the cost of the contract, and deliverable times and deadlines are equally important. But what happens if there's a conflict and the business owner whose contracts you have signed wants to go to a court, say in Nevada, when you live in Virginia? This is why it's important that before you sign a contract as a client or even as a business owner, in case you're going into business with a fellow business owner, you read the boilerplate, especially governing law, venue, in case anything was to go wrong. The firm offers contract review services. This is where we review any contract before you sign it and educate you on the meat of the contract and also the boilerplate so that before you sign that contract, you know exactly what that contract says. If you need any of those services, be sure to contact the firm.